Welcome back. Now we are looking at Siddaramaya's 100 days of government. We've seen this earlier with the other governments as well. Well, what is special about Mr. Siddaramaya? We are explaining all that. Now we have gone through the 5 performing ministers. Now who are the non-performing ministers, the 5 worst ministers? My colleague Nischita will tell you that.
Well, we have sat together for several days, all our senior colleagues. We have taken data compiled from various constituencies. Our reporters have gone into each and every nook and corner of the state, and we have compiled our data using all the information that we have received. And from all the details that we have received in the past 100 days of the kind of work that has been done, we have listed 5 ministers who are the worst performing ministers. First of all, we have Babu Rao Chinchasur, who is the Minister for Textile and Ports. His major drawbacks, one being that he failed to conduct review meetings in his departments, and that is what proved to be his major drawback. And he's rarely seen in the Vidhana Saudha, which proved to be a standout point for Babu Rao Chinchasur. There was no foresightedness in carrying out works is what we inferred from all the works that he decided to carry out at any point in time, and he also failed to visit ports take stock of the situation. So these are the points that actually got him listed in this top 5 worst performing ministers. Moving on from Babu Rao Chinchasur, we have Abhay Chandra Jain, who has been named as the Minister for Sports, Youth Affairs and Fisheries. We'll take a look as to why Abhay Chandra Jain has featured on this list of the top 5 worst performing ministers. For Abhay Chandra Jain, there was absolutely no clarity in formulating the youth policy, since he holds the portfolio for youth affairs, and secondly, he has not expressed interest in the fisheries department. Let's not forget that when the portfolio was given to him, he was extremely apprehensive about it, but however the government refused to make any changes, and hence despite his no interest in the fisheries department, he has been given it. And also there is absolutely no problems from his end whenever the fishermen have expressed the problems that they are facing. Let's not forget that this has been a raging issue in the state, and also no encouragement as such provided to sports persons, something that the sports persons were hoping for from the newly appointed Youth Affairs and Sports Minister, Mr. Abhay Chandra Jain. So these points let him be featured on this list of top 5 worst performing ministers. The third one being Kamrul Islam, who is the Minister for Waqf and Civil Administration. No decision has been taken as yet on the reservation for the President and the Vice President's posts in the local bodies. This has proved to be a major deterrent for him. Secondly, he has failed to fulfill promises that he made in the assembly, boisterously made in the assembly, but failed to actually fulfill it when it came to on-field duty. No adequate control over his department is what we inferred from all the word that we took from his officers, from the people who work under him. There was no coordination between the officials. There was absolutely no communication. There was no common thread of communication. The officials did not have any sort of coordination with each other, and also he failed as the in-charge minister of Gulbarga, is what the people and the officials of the district feel at this point in time, is what we inferred, and hence Kamrul Islam too features on the top 5 worst performing ministers. Fourth one being Mr. Shamnu Shivashankarappa, who holds the portfolio for horticulture and APMC. There is a lot of confusion still remains in the APMC amendment bill, and he also failed to respond to any queries that were posed to him in the assembly or otherwise, despite the fact that he is one of the senior most ministers that we are looking at. It is also being told that his son and also an MLA, SS Mallikarjun, has been accused of interfering in the administration, which has irked several officials, which has irked several people, and this has not gone down too well. This has gone on to in fact tarnish the image of Shamanur Shivashankarappa himself. And finally, the fifth minister who features on this top 5 worst performing ministers is H.C. Mahadevappa. He holds the portfolio for PWD as well as the district in charge minister of Kodagu and Hassan. He has failed to improve the condition of roads by filling the potholes, one of the raging issues not only in Bengaluru but across the country. In Bengaluru, we have seen several people losing their lives because of these deadly potholes, but nothing much done by the minister or the ministry, and hence leading to discontent among the people of the state. Also, sand policy, there is the sand policy has not been implemented to check illegal sand mining, which has led to a lot of erosion, which has led to and this has caused problems for the people living on the banks of several water bodies. He did not visit Hassan despite being the district in charge minister. Let's not forget that there was a bus accident that took place in Belur a couple of weeks back where nearly 9 people lost their lives. But despite this accident, H.C. Mahadevappa failed to visit the district. This has irked the people of the district as well. He paid a visit to the Mangalore-Madikeri highway only 15 days after the landslide. Let's not forget that a major landslide in the Mangalore-Madikeri highway had led to some serious cracks along the road, which had rendered it unusable for quite a long duration of time. However, the minister chose to visit the location only 15 days after the incident happened, even though the people were struggling at the location. Also, his son has been accused of interfering in the administration. These are the points that has worked against H.C. Mahadevappa, thereby him featuring in the top 5 worst performing ministers.
Well, so it's not all good news in the Siddu'S government. According to the News9 Sea Voter opinion, 47.5% people not happy with Siddu'S cabinet ministers, and we have just highlighted the worst performing ministers. Now, what we have done is we have spoken about the performers, the good boys, and the not so good boys. We won't call them bad boys. So the not so good boys, the worst performers. First, let's talk about Abhay Chandra Jain. Well, Mr. Abhay Chandra Jain from the coastal area of Karnataka was among those who helped win in areas which were otherwise considered BJP strongholds. People like Mr. Abhay Chandra Jain, Vinay Kumar Sorakke, also UT Kader, all these were winning in areas which was largely given up by the Congress if you look at the earlier elections. So they have been winning in these areas, and they were all rewarded with berths in the ministry. Now, have they done well? Now, not so well, Mr. Abhay Chandra Jain. And can we talk about Abhay Chandra Jain? We say that he has not done too well. He is among the worst performing minister. Mr. Qureshi, would you like to talk about this? He didn't want his fisheries department. He says he's a Jain, a vegetarian, not really, He said, I don't want this portfolio, and this was a rarity, but Siddaramaiah stuck to his gun, said no, he shall have this portfolio.
You see, each one of these ministers, I mean, overall I can tell you about like the best performing or the so-called not so well performing ministers. Each one of them holds a particular political constituency, address a political constituency, which certainly is one of the reasons why they have been awarded. For example, Baburao Chinchansoor,
the loyalist of Mr. Kharge, Baburao
no loyalist of Mr. Kharge,
someone who's enjoyed to be minister
of a certain backward community. I mean, there is no doubt about that. Hamrul Islam, for example,
he's senior most of the minorities.
Abhay Chandra is
the only Jain.
Abhay Chandra, he's been the only Jain, and he's also been very consistent in his.
He's
a complete party loyalist. He has worked very hard, and perhaps it's the first time he's becoming a minister. Shamno Shiv Shankarappa, again because of his
Lingayat strongman, there is no way they could
strongman that the party doesn't have. And Mahadevappa, of course, still
close loyalist of
Siddaramaiah, and he certainly needs some more time to settle down in a new department. The previous time he was taken into the ministry, he was a health minister, and he's
a doctor. He's a
doctor by profession. And Mahadev Prasad is in this. I don't know after how many decades Karnataka has had a.
He's on that list anymore.
He's not on that list.
Mahadev Prasad is not there.
Mahadevappa, the 5.
Oh, Mahadevappa. So these are all ministers who have been given posts, primarily ministerial posts, because of the constituencies they represent, and their performance really needs time. I mean, these are all people who are handling portfolios which are new to them.
Perhaps public works is the only portfolio which could have shown results in 100 days. Some amount of work.
Yeah,
but the other portfolios.
Some amount of visible works, because when we say roads, it's so visible.
Road, highways and all that may come under the public works department.
Correct, not city.
Not the city.
Not city.
Corporation.
We're not
so you
talking
can't
about
really hold
city.
them responsible for
all the
potholes in Bangalore.
So yes.
Certainly not, or in Mangalore, wherever.
Absolutely.
So that was perhaps the only department or the only minister who could have shown some some performance in 100 days. The other ministers, I'm not very sure, will really need to show you performance in 100 days, because some of these ministries are ministries which need to take a long-term view, and therefore 100 days is probably not the best marker for those.
Yes, I agree with Shashwati and Mr. Qureshi what they said. See, especially the portfolios, what the textile ports or the inland transport or municipal fishery minister, youth services, and especially horticulture. We cannot come to any kind of a conclusion. But yet, if they would have given a good performance and tried for it,
Okay.
at least.
Let's ask Brijesh, who's in Delhi. Well, Brijesh, we have the good boys and the not so good boys. 5 of them who have failed, and according to the survey, it says Baburao Chinchansoor leading the pack. Kamrul Islam, he has been consistently ill apart from all these other things that we pointed out. Abhay Chandra Jain, someone who doesn't want one of his portfolios. Shamnur Shivshankarappa, is he too old? H.C. Madhevappa, doctor who holds the Public Works Department. Are these your non-performing assets?
No, I wouldn't agree with that analysis. And that's exactly what I wanted to point out. First of all, if you're speaking of a person who is the PWD minister who has not attended to the roads, then one forgets that these past 100 days have been rainy days. We are in the middle of the monsoon season. So there's no work which generally is carried out by the PWD to bolster the road network during the monsoon, because there's no point in doing any work just now. So that is a completely wrong way of assessing a person's capability. But in regard to the other 4 ministries which you pointed out, Shamnu Shivshankarappa, Kamrul Islam, Jain and Mr. Chinchansoor, all of these hold portfolios where it is not really possible to show any magnificent change. There are certain ministries, by the very nature of their profile, they have to have a certain manner of dissemination of information or of a reach to the public, right? But these are all these people hold ministries where it's not possible to show great activity on a daily basis. There is something called a critical and a non-critical ministry, and then you find that in the critical areas all these ministries are doing well, but in the non-critical areas it's difficult to assess on a 100-day basis who is doing well and who is not.
Okay. Prakash would like to disagree.
I disagree here.
Yeah.
Public Works Department, yes, as he said, you cannot lay the roads now
It's
during
monsoon,
the monsoon.
you can't lay the roads.
But even in 100 days, you cannot start the road work. You have to call for the tender and it has to be finalized. There are so many formalities which you have to fulfill. But what has started? Where is the direction for the department? How are you going to tackle these potholes and good roads? There is no program at all. You could have started, at least you could have told what is your next program, what's your future course of action. Nothing has come. His son is interfering in the Kodagu Jilla Parishad activities. Our own MLA has taken a very strong objection to it. And I think you have also mentioned in it. Regarding Kamrul Islam, he has been accused of encroaching illegally Waqf properties. A report has been submitted.
That's a different issue altogether.
No, he's one among them. He's an accused. In the assembly, he is the accused and he himself absolves himself in the assembly. He said, no, it's the government has not accepted the report. That's not the way. The previous government had accepted it. I think the cabinet had cleared it.
No, with that Waqf board stick, you beat almost every minority leader.
No, it's not sticking.
Correct,
it's not
correct. With that Waqf board stick.
Then you mean to say one report?
No, correct. No. With that stick, almost every major leader was hit. Tell me one person who was not
now,
hit.
A.T. Ramaswamy committee hits majority of the politicians on the encroachment of government land. Would you say the same thing to them?
Let's ask Brijesh.
No, don't make
Brijesh, we see this. Yeah. Kamrul Islam is someone who the allegations against him. Mr. Manapadi has made these allegations in regard to the Waqf issue.
Yeah.
In fact, almost every leader in the Congress, every minority leader, I won't take all the names, almost every one of them, his name figures in this Waqf board scam.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I'd only like to point out that if the Muslim community, which really is the main shareholder or the main stakeholder in this Waqf properties, what kind of support have they extended to the former chairman of the Waqf board, this Mr. Malapadi, who passed on, made such sweeping allegations against everybody, and this was the BJP's way of entering into an arena where they didn't previously exist. So they've created some small demon who then touches everybody and says, okay, you're all turned into ashes, and then I'm the only one who's standing erect. So this is an absolutely puerile way of doing politics. But the BJP tried it, and of course they have received due punishment for all their misdeeds.
See, don't give color to the scandals. It's A.T. Ramaswamy committee or the or the Waqf committee report.
Yes.
If there is any irregularity, why don't an inquiry be held? Why not the culprit be punished? Whatever the committee, it is A.T. Ramaswamy or this Waqf
Or
committee.
Balasubramaniam committee,
Yeah, that's what.
or Manapadi committee.
It's not, it's a property which was meant for the development of Muslims, poor Muslims. Those have been gobbled up by these powerful Muslim leaders. If it is done, why not the government go into this and take back those
Government has
lands?
to go into
What's
it.
wrong in it? And even regarding the Balasubramaniam committee, we have never said don't act upon it. Government should act upon on whatever the lands, whatever the government properties have been encroached upon, it has to be taken back, whoever it is. Why do you paint color for it? That's not our politics.
Brijesh, do we need to paint color for this? That's Prakash's question.
No, we need to paint color for a party which projects Mr. Narendra Modi, who has such a rotten image among the minorities as their leader and as their proposed candidate for Prime Minister. It shows the complete lack of sensitivity that the BJP has towards the minorities of this country. And with the leader, with the prime ministerial aspirant of the nature of Mr. Narendra Modi, I don't know what kind of claim they can make towards having any basic degree of sensitivity towards the feelings of the minority communities.
No, but I just have one,
He is obsessed
question
with
here.
the
In the graphics that you were showing against Kamarul Islam as to why he has been rated as a
Yes,
bad
yes,
performer, I don't think any of this really featured. So is it that in public perception it does not exist, or is there a problem with the way the survey has been done?
Yes, this is not taken into consideration in
I don't find a mention of that. At least
this is,
your
this is
respondents have not
mentioned.
pointed that as a negative.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
is it that in public perception it does not exist, or is there a problem with the way the questions were asked, or is what Prakash mentioning more a concern of the political parties?
Even without that, he figures in the bad boys list. So you can
True,
imagine with
but
that,
then
where
that
he
would
would
be one of the most serious charges.
When we get talking about this after this very short break, stay tuned.
Welcome back. Well, there were some decisions that were hurried and unplanned when we went through some of the decisions that were taken by the government so far, and here's a glimpse at some of them. The first one being the Anna Bhagya scheme. The scheme, in fact, was announced soon after Siddu'S assumed the Chief Minister's office. However, initially it was said that by June 1st, the scheme would begin. However, it was postponed to the 1st of July, and the scheme started only by the 10th of July. Hence, it was also told that the Anna Bhagya scheme is a burden on the government at this point in time, and it is not a well thought out move by the Congress government. So now the delayed start itself has proven to be a question for the state government. The next one being the attempt to bring the Udupi Krishna temple as well as the Gokarna temple under the Musarai department. As soon as this decision was announced, there was opposition that came to the fore, and the government immediately backtracked following the opposition. The third issue that can be considered a hurried decision is the issue of cheap liquor. The government had announced that quality liquor will be provided at cheap rates. It was even in talks with several officials to produce cheap liquor. However, the Congress government again backtracked following opposition from several quarters. Fourth issue following the cheap liquor is the Kshira Bhagya scheme. Let's not forget that milk was promised to be supplied to all the students on a daily basis. However, so far milk is only being supplied on every alternate days to the students. And finally, it is the issue of bar license that came to the fore when we were deciding about hurried decisions, and the government had announced issuance of bar licenses to unemployed graduates, but there was a lot of confusion on the issue, and still at this point in time there is no clear stand on the issue.
Well, the allegations, these are all hurried decisions. Annabhagya, while Annabhagya attempt to bring temples under Muzrai, cheap liquor, and the others that we're talking of. Well, Ms. Shashwati, how do you respond to this?
Well, I quite, I'd like to disagree with some of these being called hurried decisions. Some of these decisions, I think, are in the right direction in terms of what Karnataka requires today. I think the Annabhagya scheme, even if it has been delayed in its implementation, and some of these schemes are may not be very well thought out, but are necessary and might falter on implementation. So you have to look at them separately. Now, this is a scheme that I think tackles the issue of malnutrition that Karnataka is facing in a big way. And, the pre-milk scheme also tackles the issue of malnutrition. So I wouldn't be one who would call this a hurried decision. Yes, there have been teething troubles in implementation of the scheme, and those teething troubles continue in some, because I don't think it's been uniformly rolled out all over Karnataka yet. But I wouldn't call those decisions hurried decisions which are faltering on implementation. Yes, well, bar licenses for unemployed youth, I really don't understand. What's the issue with it? Would you rather have them unemployed? I don't know. And yes, the issue on the Krishna temples, most certainly, the cheap liquor, most certainly were hurried decisions. But as for the other two, no.
Mr. Qureshi?
In the first place, I don't think the cheap liquor is a decision at all. I don't think any decision has been taken as yet. Anyway, so far as your Annabhagya scheme is concerned, I think, or rather, when you measure a performance of a government, you have to measure it on the basis of the state of the administrative machinery. Okay. Now, given that, the administrative machinery, or rather the bureaucracy, was in structure, was in absolute shambles when the BJP left the government. One of the reasons being that one of the primary factors, as one very senior bureaucrat had told me this about soon after the elections were over, was that at least we will have people who are experienced in administration, number one. Number two, at least we hope they will not behave like medieval monarchs. Okay. Now that is a very caustic remark coming from a very senior bureaucrat, because officials were abused, were transferred very frequently. If they disagreed or refused to implement any
schemes.
Not scheme. Scheme was different. Scheme is a decision taken by the government. But in the case of the BJP government, ministers did not have the basic courtesies that are normally extended to extract work from a bureaucracy, from an administrative machinery. Number one.
Like, for example?
Like, for example, if the minister wants something illegal to be done by the bureaucrat, and the bureaucrat says that this is illegal, because he has a disagreement with the minister, that the official would be abused. So that particular aspect, I think, is one of the biggest plus points for this government. It has perhaps impacted at a senior level, at the director level, everywhere, but perhaps it is yet to percolate down to the grassroots level. And that is one of the reasons why this Annabhagya scheme could not be implemented on the day when they had announced that they would implement it, number one. Number two, even if it is delayed, I mean, we know that a very large number of decisions by the government, by the cabinet, are decided or postponed a number of times, but because there is a very healthy discussion that happens in this cabinet, unlike the ministry, the previous government, where till Sadanand Gowda came, there was no discussion. For 3.5 years, the BJP cabinet ministers in the cabinet had no discussion at all. It was, I am saying so, so it should be, it shall be. It is only after Sadanand Gowda's, Mr. Sadanand Gowda became the chief minister, that at least 3 or 4 cabinet ministers, some of them are very good friends of Prakash, told me that we are feeling relieved that there is at least a discussion in the cabinet on this issue. But that sort of did not persist because the government was in one trouble, was getting in from one problem and getting into a bigger problem every single day. Now that is the distinction that you need to draw when you review a performance of a government in the first 100 days. The message that is going out from this government, and that is perhaps the only positive message, even if you want to call it the only positive message, is that this government is moving slowly, but it's moving in the right direction. And that administrative machinery will take some time to implement. After all, what are you talking about? You're talking of a massive scheme. You're talking of the Anna Bhagya scheme. You're talking of the daily milk for school children scheme. There are issues that need to which you will learn to tackle as you go, because the problem that exists in perhaps say in Bidar or the problem in Raichur of malnutrition cannot be tackled overnight.
Yeah, Mr. Prabhakar.
Yes, these two schemes of the Anna Bhagya and daily milk, it's a good scheme of any government as such. And especially when the lunch is started serving to the children of the schools, automatically the attendance has risen. In the same way, even these Anna Bhagya and daily milk also help a lot of poor people as well as the students. And also the iron tablets also, which is told by Mr. Kader, also it is a plus point.
That is the central
scheme.
But whatever it is, the scheme is, when it is implemented in the state, it is also good. So as per the government, the way it is going, in 100 days it would have been done little better than what it has been till today. Because the decisions, what even they want to implement the decision, until unless the bureaucracy also should be in a position to convince the minister, either minister should be in a position to convince the schemes to be done. The other thing, Krishna Temple, Gokarna, it's not such a good decision of the government. And yet
Government had its own reasoning.
Everything.
It had its own reasoning on both those temples.
Reason
No,
will be
they might
the
still
they have their
revisit
own
that
reasoning.
decision.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I'm saying if you want to call it a hurried decision, yes, it was a hurried
Hurried
decision.
not
Mr.
well thought.
Prakash?
No, whenever a new government takes charge, naturally some of the announcements are made, either out of over enthusiasm or to impress their voters who have elected them. So I don't say any hurried decisions or bad decisions. Some of them had to be taken back. There was a lot of resistance to that. So they have definitely responded to it. Mr. Imran Qureshi said bureaucrats have demoralized during the BJP rule. I don't agree with that. I can tell you from my feedback.
He's talking as a journalist from my
I know.
experience. So he'll have his facts.
Even I have facts. No.
Okay.
See, when Siddu'S also addressed several bureaucrats, he has abused them. Okay, when this Anna Bhagya scheme was, when the very first day he announced this 4,000 crore schemes, 1 rupee rice and all, there was a strong resistance from the bureaucracy, but he overruled it. When you are when you are doing all these administrative, taking administrative decisions, certain times you have to overrule the bureaucrats. It cannot go along with their thinking.
Yes.
The government is elected. We are elected by the people. We are answerable to them. Bureaucrats are not answerable to anybody. They are answerable to their rules and
Absolutely.
rules. Okay, there may be differences or anything, but they are not abused or treated badly or anything. We, of course, I agree. We had certain problems amongst us. Maybe that might have reflected. It's too early to say this present government treats the bureaucrats very well, treats them in a nice way, or that's not possible. Coming days, we'll definitely see the change. But it's not that easy to say all that.
No, but I think, what is important is, irrespective of who behaves how, have you been able to galvanize your administrative machinery to work towards a common objective? And on the face of it, the first 100 days of Siddaramaiah tells you that the answer is a yes. Okay, now as Prakash says, next 100 days might tell you a different story.
Absolutely.
The 100 days after that might tell you a different story. Now we are not in the business of prediction or conjecture. If we are just looking at the first 100 days, I think it would be safe to say that yes, the Siddaramaiah government is on the right track. Whether it stays on the right track, because now you're going to kind of discuss the disruptive elements.
Yes,
How
yes.
disruptive will they get? Will they throw the government off track?
Yes, yes.
That's a different discussion altogether.
We already seen one of their MLA charging into your office, behaving in a rude way, and one more MLA going into the BBP office, behaving in a very bad way during the budget presentation of budget. These are all the things to come. Definitely, I feel so. And
Thankfully, they're not ministers.
No, one
Yeah.
thing that Prakash doesn't have to worry, or for that matter, even Prabhakar doesn't have to worry, or both their parties won't have to worry, is that if anything has to be demolition the Congress government, the congressmen themselves are quite competent enough to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Congress needs no enemies.
That is the statement of
Congress
the day.
needs no enemies. We
That
know
is the
that.
statement of the
I
day.
mean, Brajesh might have a different take, but we believe.
Brajesh, we have the statement of the day that for the Congress, they don't need an opposition. They have sufficient amount of it within their party.
Yes, yes, it's absolutely true, and it's 100% true. I agree with it totally. And all these other parties which claim to be political parties are only merely masquerading. But let me tell you this: that as far as the Annabhagya scheme is concerned, this is a magnificently large scheme, and a large ambitious scheme like this has to be thought, rethought, revised 10 times, fashioned in a particular way, designed, resculpted, and therefore it took some time. But I'm glad that things are on the right track. As far as cheap liquor is concerned, you see, the consumption of liquor is it costs an average person a lot of money, because a person who drinks will drink, and since arrack has now been completely banned, he has to go for bottled liquor, and when bottled liquor costs nearly 50 rupees a bottle, and he spends maybe 2 quarters, which is about a half bottle, he carries home very little. A common labourer carries home very little. And when the Chief Minister said that he wants to provide cheap liquor, he had this in mind, that the person who's drinking is certainly not going to stop drinking. The point is to have cheap but good and safe liquor, which also costs less, which taxes him less. So this was the idea of the Chief Minister. For some reason it has not taken off. As far as the Muzrai taking over certain temples, there is always a great advantage in having uniformity in terms of how temples are run and so on and so forth. Perhaps this was the reason that the Muzrai department was to take over. In any case, it's always a good step that since the Muzrai department is in fact running a number of temples, it's not too bad a decision. Perhaps the decision has been put on the back burner for some time, but all with good reason. But I must say that all these thoughts which have come are pro-people in nature, and this must not be missed in the whole gamut of arguments which fly on either side.
Okay, we get that. We slip into a very short break. On the other side, we will continue talking about the mistakes of Mr. Siddaramaya's government. Stay tuned.